These are the sights and sounds of morning in the city. Firefighters make the rain, pouring from the balconies of people's smouldering homes, all they ever worked for going up in smoke. What are they left with? A sense of shock. How can this be happening? Why did this apartment block catch the fury of Russian shells? Who's next? We're seeing this night after night now. Russian artillery strikes on apartment blocks in the suburbs of Kyiv. This is not an accident. It's a tactic designed to drive as many people out of the capital as possible. The mayor of Kyiv, a former world heavyweight champion, turns up to assess the damage and try to make sense of what's happening to his city.
Russians, especially Russians, what are you doing? What are you doing in our home country? What are you doing with our civilians? And right now a target, not just Kyiv, the target whole civilian wall.
What is your advice to the people of your city?
Advice? Keep together, stay strong, defend our houses, defend our families, children, future, country, principles, values.
What about there are three European leaders who are coming here today. What's your message to them?
Keep together, keep with Ukraine, support Ukraine, because we're fighting right now not for Ukraine. This war touched everyone in the world, especially in European Union, European family.
This is what those in neighbouring blocks saw and heard at 5 a.m.
Yeah, I just was sleeping and suddenly I felt that our couch where we were sleeping started to move. And it was scary, and with my husband, we moved to the floor because we didn't know if there would be another explosion. Yeah, and like for half an hour we were just sitting together tight and we're hoping that it wouldn't get us.
But it could be their block tonight.
It's just always a 50-50 chance. It's never 30 or 20%. It's 50-50, either you get hit or not.
And what does it feel like to live with that 50-50 chance?
Hard. We thought they wouldn't do this to us.
But they did.
Yeah, but they did. And now I understand that we will never be friends again with anybody of Russian people.
A few miles away, another block that was also hit. Fragments of people's shattered lives glimpsed through blown-out windows. The Russian government knows these images will be broadcast around the world. They want to show the cruelty of the Russian assault and the destructive power of their deadly weapons. Now, it's my understanding that those three European leaders from Poland, Slovenia and the Czech Republic are here now and have met or are meeting President Zelensky. Obviously, the whereabouts and the timing is being kept secret for security reasons. But it's really unusual for leaders to come into a war zone. It happened in 1992 when President Mitterrand went to Sarajevo in Bosnia. But these three leaders coming together to Kyiv, I think, shows that the European Union wants to indicate that it has real solidarity with Ukraine, another European country, not a member of the European Union. And I think it also shows the respect in which they hold President Zelensky. Now, he has also spoken to European leaders earlier today, and one of the important things he said is that Ukraine was willing to drop its request to join NATO. Now, that is a key demand of the Russians, that Ukraine should never join NATO. So it indicates that there is some kind of wiggle room, some kind of compromise, some kind of hope that there could be a peace deal. And that might be something that the residents of Kyiv tonight want more than anything else. I've just heard more rumble of artillery, and the great fear is that there are going to be more apartment blocks like we saw this morning, tomorrow morning. And that's also what the European leaders here are trying to show, that they're standing with Ukraine and against Russia.
Thanks, Lindsay. Well, elsewhere in this country, there has been intense fighting in the east and southern Ukraine. Mariupol has been cut off for days, but earlier today, 2,000 cars carrying civilians were able to leave the southern port. And in Kyiv, emergency workers trying to rescue victims of the shelling of a residential block came under fire themselves. The mayor of Kyiv has said the city is under constant shelling by the Russians and that hundreds of buildings have been destroyed. So close to the Russian border, it was a terrifying night in Kyiv, the second city of Ukraine in the east. The government here is clear that targeting civilian areas or firing at random and hitting civilian areas is a war crime. By daylight, even as rescuers try to get survivors out of residential blocks, they are risking their lives too. As one woman is brought to safety, they hear the familiar sounds of terror from above. This is why Ukraine speaks of closing the skies. Having survived one attack, she has to struggle away from another.
So I'm inside the building which was hit by a Russian rocket this night.
Maria Avdiva, a think tank director in Kyiv, has been posting these updates every day,
Pigeons in the Kharkiv city center.
including the extraordinary reaction of the people around her. Kyiv hasn't fallen yet, and on the outskirts of the city you can see why in the debris of battle. A long convoy of destroyed Russian vehicles and weapons. A different kind of convoy of families was trying to get out of besieged Mariupol to the south. Over the last 24 hours, thousands have been allowed out. People like Anna, who sent us this video from the road today. Driving away from war perhaps, but not to freedom. Her family are in Russian-occupied Crimea. That's why the road's so empty. Russian soldiers are examining the phones of those allowed out of Mariupol and deleting pictures of the grim truth inside. Having bombed a maternity unit here, the latest reports say Russian soldiers have taken over the main intensive care hospital, making staff and patients effective hostages and firing on Ukrainian positions from hospital buildings.
The situation in Mariupol is very difficult. 15 days the city is under blockade. There is no water, heat and electricity.
Ukrainian journalist Artem Popov sent us this update from a bunker a few miles away.
Russia bombs the city and civilians every day. Today Mariupol is the second Aleppo, perhaps even worse. Russian troops today capture the hospital along with people and staff. Today there is complete destruction of Mariupol.
But if civilian images of suffering are being stifled and there is no mobile signal in Mariupol to get them out, the Ukrainian military is providing footage of its attacks on the Russians. But it takes just 2 satellite images, 3 days apart, to see the devastating effect of war on Mariupol. The official number dead in this city is 2,357. Those coming out say it's much more, and it's only day 20. Well, as we reported earlier, Poland is one of those countries whose leader travelled to meet President Zelensky today. The Polish Prime Minister joined the Czech and Slovenian leaders in a surprise visit to Kyiv to offer Ukraine support from the whole of the EU. Joining me now is the Polish Deputy Foreign Minister, Paweł Jablonski. Mr. Jablonski, what do you hope this meeting in Kyiv is going to achieve?
Well, first of all, this is a very important signal of support of the fact that we are there for Ukraine. We are not leaving Ukraine behind. Poland, Czechia, Slovenia, three countries, three governments that are at the spearhead of all the efforts to support Ukraine, to sanction Russia even stronger, and to provide humanitarian aid. But we are acting here together as Europe, as European Union, as NATO. This is very important to be there, especially in dire times like that. It shows that we are not leaving Ukrainians behind, as they heroically defend their freedom, they stand their ground, and it is our duty to support them.
Have you had assurances from the Russians that they won't hit the train?
No assurances from Russia is to be believed by anyone reasonable at this point. I believe if anyone had any illusions until the 24th of February, right now, nobody in the right mind would believe any assertions or guarantees from Russia. This is a treacherous, lying regime. They are ready to do anything, whatever serves their political goals. As we are observing how much pain and terror they inflict, how they murder civilians, it's obvious that it's not happening by accident. This is a deliberate tactic to inflict chaos, to sow panic, and to break Ukrainian morale, to break the spirit of Ukraine. But as we see, Ukraine is proudly and heroically defending its independence, its freedom, defending lives of its people. This is what we need to know. Russia will not stop. Russia will not stop unless we are ready to stop it.
Okay, now Poland tried to send MiG jets to Ukraine via an American base in Germany, and that route was stopped because of the fear that it would lead NATO into a war. Are you looking at other ways to send jets to Ukraine?
We are looking at all sorts of ways to support Ukraine. This is no secret that we have been coordinating such support for also ahead of the war, because we understood for many, many months, we have been warning. It's not that we are happy about this now that we were right, but unfortunately, this all has been confirmed that Russia was planning this invasion. So we need to support Ukraine even more. These talk about MiGs, about the jets held in public does not serve the effectiveness of the cause. We need to focus on effectiveness. We are constantly talking to our allies how to be more effective, and the less some military topics are being discussed in public, sometimes the better for the efficiency. One very important thing, we need to strengthen sanctions, because right now this is the only way to stop Putin's war machine, to cut him off the money for gas, for oil. This is the means that he has, this is the means he uses to murder civilian people of Ukraine.
Now, Minister, much of Europe has been in awe and in some ways shamed by the way Poland has opened its borders and given such a warm welcome to the Ukrainian refugees, not asking for any paperwork or checks or anything, and welcoming them with a smile. But it is in a stark contrast to how Poland treated refugees from the Syrian war, from Afghanistan and from Iraq, from the Kurds who were coming in through the Belarus border into Poland. Do you now regret the way you treated them and wish you treated them more like you treated the Ukrainians?
I'm very sorry to say this. I'm very sorry to say this, but this assumption is completely false. The people that were brought to our borders by Vladimir Putin in summer, in autumn last year, were not refugees. They were migrants deliberately brought there by Putin and Lukashenko in order to destabilize not just Poland, but also other EU countries. These people were not fleeing war.
They were fleeing war.
They were brought to Belarus. Please, this is very important. They were not fleeing war. They were used as a tool in hybrid warfare. They were brought by Putin. These people now are running away from Putin. This is the very important difference. We should not confuse these two things.
Yeah, but they were all fleeing war, weren't they?
No, they were not. There was no war in Belarus. They were shipped to Belarus mostly from Iraq. Well, Iraq is probably not the most comfortable place to live, but there was no war in Iraq. These people were traveling, they were paying for the tickets, they were not running away from war. This was a deliberate ploy to destabilize Poland, Lithuania, and other EU countries. We shouldn't fall for Putin's and Lukashenko's play. Now, what's happening at our borders shows very clearly, and this was always our position, when there are refugees running away, running for their lives, we are always accepting them, helping them in every possible way. But we shouldn't be destabilized by exploiting these positive tendencies, these emotions, by plans like Lukashenko and Putin tried to implement in autumn.
Deputy Foreign Minister, thank you very much indeed for joining us.